Hello?
Hi, Josh. Josh, Steffen here. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. How are you doing today?
Perfect. Promoting a new album, getting a lot of good reviews and feedback all of the day, and well, there are worse things in life than doing that. So I'm happy talking about the new album. And a couple of days ago, I read your review, and well, thank you very much. This is killer. You nailed it completely. So I really think it's fantastic that you like the album. Thank you.
Oh, likewise. Thank you very much for even sharing the review and thinking that much of it. I was so excited to be able to do this interview with you today, and just as excited to be able to receive the album so early to be able to recommend it through my site and having you guys share it through social media because I really feel that you guys are at the top of your game, even with all of the good things and bad things that have happened since Omnivium. You guys have really pulled through and possibly put out the best Obscura album today.
Well, first of all, thank you. And you're right. Things happen, but there's no way to give up in any from any perspective. So, but I always try to keep the positive things in mind looking back. So that's all good. But I think Relapse is doing a very good job so far promoting the new album and giving out the new album in advance to everyone. And they're really behind getting interviews and features and everything. And it's just a pleasure. I mean, everything works these days. And as I mentioned, I'm very happy how things turning out right now, and also about the feedback. I mean, we delivered the album about 7 months ago, and somewhere in July, and since then, for us, this is done. And now, half a year later, we finally get some feedback from people that are not our very close fans who listen to the record, or the people have been involved in the production. So this is really exciting, and I love to talk about the new album.
Oh, fantastic. And it's a great album to talk about too because it feels so fresh and it feels so inspired this time
Well,
around.
thank you. Well, the point is we changed many things compared to the previous records, and also how to produce the album, how to write music overall, and also we have new people on board with a complete new rhythm section compared to the last record, and this is something I guess people recognize. And also the whole vibe of the album turned out different than the previous ones. A little bit on purpose, a little bit on coincidence. So coincidence. So well, I'm happy. I'm happy how it turns out. Looking back, the album is pretty much exactly what we wanted to do. Keeping the old vibe, keeping the identity of the band, but at the same time um, integrate something new somehow. I think you still hear the same band playing, performing, and writing music, but at the same time, there's more to discover than on the previous albums, or let's say something different to discover than on the last album.
So, would you say that's the biggest change in the band since Omnivium is what you just described for the new album?
From my perspective, absolutely. We changed to focus a little bit more on the rhythm section on purpose, since first of all, we have new band members. That's correct, but Omnivium, for example, was a very much straight-in-your-face death metal album where everything happened A on high speeds, B everything happened like 200 times as much as sometimes it needed to be, and I wanted to have a way more dynamic album this time. And also, I see Obscura as a live band. We are recording an album and then we are on tour for at least 2 years, at least in the past. So, what I wanted to do is pointing out what we can do better in terms of production, writing, and also changing a couple of things. So, what I wanted to do is, for example, reducing the speed only a minimum, like a couple of cents down. On Omnivium, you have parts that are above 250, some I remember even 260 BPM. But performing this live, everything the audience receives through the PA is sometimes white noise. And we recognize that it doesn't matter if you have, as a band, a good day or a bad day. Sometimes, things work very well. Sometimes you have a bad day and it doesn't work 100%. But it doesn't matter. In the end, it didn't work live out that much. So what I wanted to do is getting down a little bit the speed on, well, Tractor Dimension, for example, is still on 230 BPM, pretty fast song, but at the same time focusing a little bit more on the rhythm section and putting there the interest in. So that was my idea behind that.
Yeah, that's definitely a great way to go about it too, and I'm very excited to hear those songs in a live setting too, because when I listen to the album, it does sound like something that any song off the album would translate very well live, so it's very cool to see that you guys did put that into a lot of thought for a live setting.
Yeah, actually the whole album was meant to be able to be played or performed live. In Omnivium we had like two songs that were only written for the album. There were ideas, based on 6 guitars in Velocity, for example, or Prismal Dawn, the song. Both of them were on purpose not meant to be played live. This time I wanted to have an album where everything is possible to be reproduced in a live setting. And that's something we had in mind, writing and arranging the album.
Yeah, again, that is just fantastic to me, because those end up being my favorite albums where any song off the album can be performed live, and having that much diversity and originality behind the songs too. It makes for a great live experience, and it makes for a great album overall.
Thank you very much. I mean, the whole album is actually meant to be like a one piece. So even if you translate or take that in a live setting, it has to be interesting. If you listen to the album from front to end, it's like one big piece with a lot of different waves of dynamics. Sometimes it's pretty fast. Then you have a couple of moments where you can breath, and then there's a 7-string, almost Morbid Angelic riff breaking through. And to keep things interesting, I wanted to keep it like that. On the previous album, sometimes I had the impression it's way too much too fast. We had one very slow song, Ocean Gateways, but after like half an hour, the listener usually gets tired because it's just too much happening at the same time, and you cannot listen to the whole album in a row, even if it's many interesting ideas. But I thought we could be a little bit more diverse in that. So what we did on Akroasis is especially also changing the tempos very much. We don't work only with fast and super slow parts, but also something in between. A very good example is, in my opinion, a song like Perpetual Infinity, which is somewhere in between Sermon of the Seven Sons, with almost a fresh feeling. And, Weltseele in the end is anyway something somewhere related to prog rock in the end. And to keep all of this a little bit more interesting on the album, but also in the live setting, I wanted to have those bigger dynamic range.
Yeah, again, I can't stress enough how much I really do appreciate the new album because of its diversity as well. And I'm glad that you mentioned it before on Omnivium, because no matter the style or the genre of music, if that's all that you're listening to for an hour or a half hour, and there's not too much change in there, it does get a little much for the style of music. And with Akroasis, it sounds like such great diversity, and again, it does feel like one long song, and it doesn't feel like it gets too long or too short. It feels like so natural, which I really appreciate.
Thank you very much. I mean, that's a big compliment. The point is also, you mentioned it sounds natural that we changed the production extremely compared to the last ones, but that has different roots, different ideas that came together. But if it's possible, listen to the whole album from front to end. And I know most of the people just pick up one song on YouTube, another song on Spotify, on Deezer, on all of those platforms, but actually it is written and put together within a track list that everything is somehow flowing into each other. And the best thing to consume this whole picture or catch it in the end is listening to the whole album, watch the booklet, and get a little bit inspired by the lyrics. And you don't need a physical copy for that. I don't want to say, hey, you have to buy the CD or LP. It's also cool if you just take the time and get into the music. And I mean, I read your review, and you're absolutely there. So
Well, as a album reviewer, thank you very much for that compliment as well, because it's a great honor for the band that I'm reviewing to actually not only uh, promote the review that I do, but to be so happy with the way that I've done it as well, because everything that I said in that review is completely from the heart. If there was anything I didn't like about the album, I would have said it in the album review as well, but everything that I said on there, I completely meant.
Thank you. I mean, it's quite natural that not everything is made for everybody, but I read it and I also sent it to the other guys, and we are all pretty grateful for pointing out everything, and it's a very well written piece. I mean, you point out actually everything we thought about. That was so interesting. It's like, okay, it seems like this person is very, very much into the band and knows everything we ever did better than we do.
Yeah, I mean, when I try to do a review or I try to do an interview, I want to make sure that I'm a huge fan of the band, or it's a band that I can learn a lot about, because I never want to be one of those people to do an interview or to do a review where the band knows that I know nothing about the band and they can't take it seriously. I want to make sure that my perspective is from a fan that actually knows what they're talking about, so anyone that's reading it that's from a fan like me or a brand new perspective will be able to see if the band is right for them.
Well, I just appreciate that, because you don't know how often I get the question, so who are you? Please introduce yourself and say what you do in your band. So,
Where did you
welcome to
come
my
up
world.
with Obscura?
Oh, God. Right now, I can laugh about it, but if I get this question 10 times a day, then...
Oh, I completely understand where that comes from. Again, it's just I want to make sure that me being a fan of the band, first of all, when I'm doing an interview or a review, and also to make sure that I actually know what I'm talking about as well, because of what you just said, because you're so used to doing interviews with people who may not have even heard your music prior to the interview, let alone know anything more about the band.
Well, to be honest, this happens only very, very, very few times. Of course, in the beginning, but nowadays, when a band is around like 14 years and somebody's not taking the time to read 10 seconds in the biography, then it's not making fun. But honestly, so far, the interviews have been very, very well done so far, and I'm very happy with unique questions, or if somebody is extremely focused and knows, like, as you are a fan of the band. And I remember yesterday I had a discussion with what was this, Radio Metal from France, and I talked 2 hours with that guy. And it was a pleasure. It didn't feel like that, because it was like a back and forth, and then it's really a pleasure to promote an album. And I also take my time for that, and it's just cool if somebody has or understands what we try to do. And well, that's why we're sitting here.
Yeah, exactly. Because I mean, I think that makes for a more interesting conversation too, when it's a fan and someone from the band are able to work off of each other, and it just makes for a more interesting interview than to ask when you first picked up the guitar and first started listening to the music that you do, and just all the same basic questions.
Oh, well, that's nothing bad, but it always depends from which perspective. But well, that's a long story.
Oh, yes. But getting back into the new album, you did make mention that it is meant to feel like one long song separated into separate tracks. Does that mean that, is there any chance in the future that you would be playing the whole album from start to finish?
Actually, since around 2010, I have the idea of bringing all the albums of this 4-album concept we started with Cosmogenesis into a live setting and make a quattro DVD, like 4 DVDs. But I'm not sure if this is A, realistic, or B, we ever get the budget for it. But if we can do that, I would play the entire album as a whole. And the same goes for all the other albums. But at first we have to write a 4th album, kind of obviously. But this is something I really well think about, and this is growing in my mind. And I have a notebook with many ideas, and sometimes those ideas are in that book for a couple of years. Like, for example, the song Weltseele, World Soul. This whole thing was actually meant to be on Cosmogenesis, So sometimes I pick up ideas from there and finally realizing them. And this goes also for this idea of playing albums in its entirety. But I don't think that we are doing this what other bands do these days. Like, okay, it's 20 years of this and that album, so let's play the entire thing on one tour. We are not old enough for that, and B, I think it's kind of weird.
Oh, that idea, if it ever does come to fruition, I would be a first day buyer for those DVD or Blu-rays if they came out. I think that'd be such a great thing for a fan that's been around since the beginning of the band or a brand new fan. That'd just be great to see that kind of retrospective of all the albums when or if that ever comes to fruition.
Well, I think it's a good idea, and I talked to a couple of people who might be involved in the production, and it could be possible, but it always depends, on the budget and how people appreciate it in the end. I think the live DVD market is simply dead. Nobody's buying live DVDs because you can stream everything on YouTube or on Vimeo and all of those platforms. So I'm not sure if anybody would ever buy it. But, well, let's see. I mean, if there's a will to do something, there's always a way to do it.
So very, very true. Again, getting to the new album, I know it happens occasionally where a band writes more music than actually ends up on the album. Did that happen this time around?
Actually, it's the first time that happened. We wrote in total 15 songs, and as demos, and we still have the rest of the songs, and I don't know what happens with the material. They're not finished, of course, I have to say that. We picked up out of the 15 songs, 8 songs that are on the album now, out of a reason. Some of the songs simply did not fit to the rest. Some of the songs were, let's say, not entirely what we wanted to do. Some riffs didn't feel right. Just a natural, selection. But this is the first time we actually had more material than we need. And I don't know why, but in the past we always wrote as much songs as we needed, and with that we went into the studio. So this time the creative process was somehow better. Somehow we have more material and a couple of riffs that might be used for the next album. Who knows?
Oh, very cool. If the songs do get to be album quality, I would love to be able to check out what would happen in the future with those songs.
Well, I still have everything here, so who knows? But we are not going to do an EP or something. That's not my kind of thing.
Yeah, I've always been more of an album guy. I love being able to listen to an album from start to finish. It feels like if I just listen to a single or two, I'm not really getting the full perspective of the album. So, again, with the new album feeling like it's one full album song, to me, it's just great being able to listen to start to finish.
That's really great to hear, since most of the kids these days don't keep the attention to listen to a whole album from front to end. It's usually something you can consume while doing something else, and I think this music is not made for that. So I'm grateful for everybody who takes the time and listens to an album from front to end, or at least like a big chunk of it, to get into the mood, to fall into all of this vibe, everything that's going on there, and, well, enjoy.
So very true. Getting into the live aspect of the band, I know you guys had some problem last year when you were supposed to be part of Summer Slaughter and sadly had to cancel. Is there any chance of you guys coming back to the States this year or next year?
Absolutely. The thing is, we still did not receive our visas at this point.
Ooh.
We applied for them in March last year, and speaking today at 29th of January, we still do not have them. And there are no answers, nothing, anything. We try to get hold of U.S. immigration. We're not doing that ourselves. We have an agent taking care of that, and this is the same guy who we are working with since 2008. So we got our visas all the time. We have a touring history. We are registered as a real company. We pay our taxes. We make everything by the books, and still at least it feels like we got screwed over, since we lost $15,000. Aside from the fact that we don't earn any cent, you know. Usually, if you're playing a tour, you come home, pay your rent with that for a couple of months, but it shouldn't have to be. So we had to deal with that, and when you're struggling, then you know who are your friends and who are not. And I'm very happy that everybody who was involved there, the Summer Slaughter team, like all the promoters, our label, the people we work with, the coach company, for example, also the endorsers, the merch company we are working with, all of them helped us making the best out of this situation. And I'm very glad that we work with people we can rely on. This is also the reason why I work the long term with people. And out of those big pool of shit, we somehow managed it not to get bankrupt completely, but it's very frustrating at the same time. We are sitting at home seeing Summer Slaughter touring around North America, and we are here trying to fix all the trouble. And well, that was extremely frustrating. But again, there's no way to give up at any point. I'm not the guy for that, and we are still trying to get our visas. And as soon as this is sorted out, we will come back to the United States and play a full tour or two. Who knows? That always depends on the bookings and what bands are available. But we are definitely about to come back. Unfortunately, not this summer. I'm very glad and grateful that that's also a reason people work with us, since we're working pretty loyal with the guys. The Summer Slaughter crew, they offered us exactly the same deal, the same offer, exactly the same one as last year when we had to cancel. And unfortunately, we had to pass on that, but we got the same deal and the same offer again to play again on Summer Slaughter to make it up for last year. And just this gesture tells me, okay, thank you very much. You are people I really want to work with, and I'm very grateful for that. We cannot make it, but we try our best to make it possible to come back.
That is fantastic to hear from Summer Slaughter being able to be that gracious for you guys under such terrible circumstances as what the United States does to touring bands outside of the United States, just making it so much harder for anyone to even want to come to the United States. But again, it makes me feel so honored that you guys are not taking North America out of the equation and you're still trying to make everything work out to come back here, because you know that the fans in North America care that much about what you're doing, and hopefully it leads to great touring experiences once everything gets figured out.
I'm pretty sure there's a way to figure it out, and I also understand it's necessary to have some kind of immigration office, but somehow the procedure is not ideal, not efficient, as a German would say. But anyway, we are coming back, and I remember all of the tours and the shows we did in the past, and it was a pleasure to come over. I remember especially the very first time we toured in the United States with Cannibal Corpse, Neuraxis from Canada, and the Faceless. And we have been rookies back then, but everybody treated us as foreigners with complete respect. We had a great time. The fans have been totally into the music, have been great shows, and that's the things I keep in mind. Not that immigration office is not working properly. That's a side note in the end. What is counting is that there are hundreds and thousands of people who listens to this kind of music, who wants to see us, and we want to play for our fans. And this is what we try to manage somehow in the future again.
Oh, very much so. And that leads to a segue that I was caring about with Maryland Death Fest. With the visas possibly not working out yet, is that going to affect Thulcandra making it for Maryland Death Fest?
That's a very good question, since we are trying to get our visas right now. So we also, months in advance, we are working on that. And the guys from Maryland Death Fest are very helpful. And it's not the first time they book European bands, so they're very used to it. And I'm pretty sure we can make it somehow. If not, think about how many non-American bands are playing at Maryland Death Fest. If they all have to cancel, I I guess this festival is screwed, and no one wants to have that. So I think it's going to happen. I just hope, fingers crossed.
I very much hope so too, because I want Thulcandra to be able to have that presence in the United States that it is all over the rest of the world too, because easily one of my favorite black metal bands to ever exist, and with everything that you've created, being a fanboy of both Obscura and Thulcandra, I just love seeing the different sides of your playing.
Well, thank you very much. I mean, it's as you mentioned, a complete different band, different genre. We are, a black metal band with some melodic elements, more or less related to the Swedish black and death metal scene from the mid '90s, early '90s, and playing in Maryland Death Fest would be a pleasure. Seriously, it's the first time we ever hit North American ground, and missing that would be a real letdown. And everybody's looking forward for that. Even the guys from Relapse Records told me they will attend to the show, so I can't wait coming over and playing.
Oh yeah, very much so. My first experience with Maryland Death Fest was last year, but sadly this year I don't have it in the budget to make it from Minnesota and Maryland to Maryland in time to make it happen. But I'm really hoping that everything would get worked out with the visas, and it would be such a great show that could lead to more shows in North America.
Well, if it's possible, I think we can make it happen. We got a couple of offers in the past playing tours, but unfortunately it was not possible from our side playing those tours. But never say never. Who knows? On the other hand, there's a big difference between Obscura and Thulcandra. While I'm since this year I'm a full-time musician and only focus on Obscura, touring a lot, recording albums, and there's a lot of things around to do, management, taking care of all the logistics, organization, and reaching out, working with the record labels, while Thulcandra is also a band I put the same time from a musical point of view into. It's just a different genre, but we are somehow naturally limited to what we are doing from a time effort, since 3 of the other guys are working full time, and they are able to at maximum play 1 big tour per year. So we are not going to be a touring band at that. So we rather keep it a little bit more exclusive, play shows we really like to play, some festivals, some special festivals, or a mini tour. For example, we are going to play a small European tour of like 11 dates together with our friends in Secrets of the Moon, Dotheim's Guard from Norway, and Our Survival Depends from Austria. And we keep it like that, a little bit more exclusive, and this is also why we are so happy to play at Maryland Death Fest, which is like the festival. This is, as far as I know, the biggest extreme metal festival from the United States, which has a big lag of, black metal bookings. And I think this is something exclusive. We know many people are there, friends, bands we have been playing with before, the guys from Relapse, and I think this is something one of those exclusive shows we can't miss at all, and that's why we are doing it. On the other hand, we are still able to make albums always now and then, and it seems like we hit the studio perhaps by the end of this year. Let's see. We are in the middle of writing a new record.
Oh, that's great. I was just about to ask that if there was any new material on the horizon. Is it too early to talk about like any of the musical styling of the next album or anything like that?
That's a little bit too early to say. I'm rounding out a couple of demos at the moment, but I'm wrapped in promotion work for Obscura. So I think we finished writing the album in May and June, where I took some time off, and I think by then I could explain a little bit more about the new album. But right now, there's a pool of riffs. There are a couple of ideas. I have something like a collection of rough arrangements laying around here, but it's nothing concrete. It's nothing I could say, okay, the next album will contain 7 songs and they're all 10 minutes long. No, this is talking about money you didn't earn yet.
Oh, totally understandable. And when that time comes to be able to promote the new Thulcandra, I'd love to be able to talk to you again about that album.
You're very welcome at any time.
Oh, fantastic. So getting into the songwriting that you do you have to be in a separate mind to be able to write for Obscura or Thulcandra, or do the riffs come to your head and it doesn't matter which band it is, or how does that come about?
Mm, that changed a little during the last years, and nowadays I focus completely on one band writing a record. I have something like a daily agenda, playing at least at minimum 2 hours guitar a day. With it's pretty much structured between technical workout, so to say, a couple of creative things, and repeating or rehearsing old songs. But and in that time, I'm always collecting a couple of ideas, and if I have something in mind, I put record in my rehearsal studio and keep it somehow. But writing an album for Thulcandra or Obscura is usually separated completely. I don't write a song for Thulcandra here and then a couple of weeks later, okay, I have 2 songs later for Obscura. That's not how I work. It's a little bit more structured. For example, I said I took some time off for May and June to write a Thulcandra record, and in those 2 months I tried to write like 80% of the whole album in a row without writing anything for Obscura, just to be in one mindset and have somehow the vibe and being in this modus. And then, usually from my experience, I collect the best ideas. And the same goes for Obscura, vice versa. So when we're working on Obscura, I completely take off Thulcandra as a whole.
Well, that's definitely a good way about it, because when you're completely focused on the one band, you're completely focused on making the best possible album for that band.
I think every musician has his very own way to write music or to learn music, make an album or work with his bands. I think there's no formula what is best or worse, but for me this works the best by experience. So I don't know how other bands work, but
Well, that definitely makes sense too. But getting back into Obscura, of course, you guys have a lot of music to be able to choose through when it comes into a live setting. How does it feel being able to have the new album, but then going back and playing stuff from the first album through Omnivium to the new album? Does it still feel fresh to be able to play the older songs?
sometimes. I mean, the last 4 or 5 years, 6 years, we have been focusing basically only on the last 2 albums, Cosmogenesis and Omnivium. And right now we are picking up a couple of songs we want to play live in the future, and I want to differ a little bit, since I think most of the people who saw us during live shows in the past and will see us right now are more or less like the same persons. It's a small scene in the end. So I would like to play a couple of songs we haven't been performed live either in a long time or we never played so far. And having a new album out just gives us way more options. I really want, on the one hand, play as much as possible from the new album, since I simply like the songs. I think this is really good music. But at the same time, there are some songs from the previous albums I simply don't want to ignore. Or first of all, I don't want to ignore our back catalog as a whole. And I would like to choose some pieces we didn't perform yet. So we're talking within the band about the whole live set. In March and April, we are supporting Death DTA. So we have not the time for a headlining set, but as soon as it reaches to headlining shows where I would like to play like 70-80 minutes, then we have a little bit more options and we play not only a best of set. It's a little bit repetitive, a little bit boring for everyone, but I would like to defer the set list or alter the set list compared to the previous years, play some hits we have to play, like Anti-Cosmic Overload, like Septuagint, Vortex, Omnivium, Incarnated, but at the same time spicing everything up with songs that are not played within the last 5-6 years or even never. So it has to be interesting, not only for the fans, but also for us as musicians. Nobody wants to play the same live set or the same songs for another 1,000 years. I always imagine how Slayer think when they play for the 5th million time Raining Blood or I don't know, South of Heaven.
That's really true too. I mean, you want to be able to still feel inspired by the set that you're playing because as soon as you start getting bored with the songs, it might start to come off live, and the fans watching you might be able to tell that you're not enjoying yourself on stage. And you never want that to happen. You want to be able to enjoy the second that you get on stage to the second you get off stage.
That's the point. It should be a fantastic evening for the fans as well as for the band. So you have to be honest to yourself. That's the point, and that's why I would like to play a couple of other songs, and it's also more interesting for everyone. So
Very much so. Just a non-Obscura, non-Thulcandra question. Of course, with this being a new year in 2016, was there any music that you got to check out in 2015 that you enjoyed?
I discovered a couple of new bands. To be honest, I'm listening to more music than ever these days, like different underground bands especially, and I discovered a fantastic band from the United States called Vektor.
Oh yes, I'm actually going to see them later in the month.
I guess we have to pick them up for a tour in the United States or in Europe. I really love this band. This is fantastic. It reminds me of, I don't know, so many cool bands. Somehow it feels like Voivod meets Nocturnus meets, I don't know, a weird fresh black metal merge. It's bizarre, but I love it. It sounds completely unique, and I guess they put out a new album this year.
Oh yeah, they're
next month or so.
Yeah, they're gonna be putting one out in. I think it's in a few months. I think it's coming out, and it's funny that you mentioned Voivod. They're actually going on tour with Voivod throughout February.
Yeah, I saw that. Unfortunately, it's not in Europe, right?
Yeah, it's just in the United States. But thankfully for me, it's only about 15 minutes away, so that's gonna be a great show. I already have my ticket for it.
Good for you. No, but this is one of those bands I discovered, and definitely a band I'm watching out, and I pick up the new album. This is great music. And aside from that, there's a German band I picked up a couple of months ago in 2015 called Sulfur Ian. It's a very, very dark, black death metal band. It sounds like Morbid Angel with some doom vibe, but also some black metal feeling. It's very hard to describe, very abysmal feeling, but at the same time, good musicians, nice funky German accent, but I'm used to that. And I think it's a good band, and these days there are more bands popping up that are talented, and it seems like they have a huge career in front of them laying out if they make the right steps. And great music. 2015, 2016, fantastic so far.
Oh, fantastic. Which actually leads me to another question that I just thought of now, where do you have to listen to other music while you're writing music for Obscura or Thulcandra? Or are you able to listen to that's in the black metal and death metal styles? Because I know there's some musicians out there who can't listen to the same style of music that they're trying to create. Is that true for you?
To be honest, I don't think about that at all. I listen to what I like, and that differs. One week I'm more into prog rock. The other week I'm only listening to old black metal records, and the next week I'm listening to Dave Weckl the whole day. I don't know. I don't think about that at all. I like the music, and when I write music, it's something different. It's like a different chapter.
Oh, that's really good to hear, because just with creating music, you never want to feel like other styles of music can hinder the style of music that you want to make. So that's great that does not.
Not that I can say. Not at all. I mean, all kind of music, everything you hear, even movies you see somehow inspire you or have their share of what you're writing. So I can't stand people who say, okay, we make only our own thing, we are inspired by nobody but our own self. And yeah, I mean, if you think about it, that can't be true 100%. So I'm just listening to music. I read a lot of books lately. Maybe the reason why I'm getting old, but also watching here and then a couple of movies. That somehow fills up my notebook with ideas, and then I'm sitting on the guitar. I have my exercises every day, and then somehow the songs come together. But I wouldn't say that I have to neglect, first of all, any influence from other artists or something like not listening to that kind of music I'm writing right now. So I can go with Suffocation, that's fine. The day when I write a new song, it's fine.
Oh, that's fantastic. Getting back into the North American live setting, you mentioned before about how Summer Slaughter offered you the same package this time around to be able to do it in 2016, which unfortunately can't happen this year. When all the stars align and all the visas come through for North America, would you want to be able to do a Summer Slaughter type setup for your first time around, or would you want to just do main support for a bigger band, or would you want to try to go for a headlining slot?
That's a good question. It always depends which bands are, first of all, available for a headliner tour, or which band, like bigger band, is looking for a good direct support, or what bands are playing on Summer Slaughter or one of those festival tours. That always depends which band are playing. For example, it doesn't matter. It doesn't make sense for us playing only with deathcore bands. We have some similarities, but we are somehow on a different genre as well. So we had this experience in Europe once with a tour which didn't work in terms of sharing the audience, and it's a matter of timing. First of all, we have to figure out the visa, then we see which band is looking for touring as well, and it also depends which supports are available if we are going for a headliner run. So I keep that on for a decision for the future.
Oh, fantastic. And again, I just hope that everything works out on the United States side to be able to get you guys the visas that you deserve to be able to tour here and be able to support Obscura and Thulcandra the way that they deserve to be promoted here.
Well, I think it's a paperwork topic. So in the end, the music has to talk, and we make it happen.
Well, again, thank you so much for taking the time to do this interview. As you can tell, I am a huge fan of Obscura and Thulcandra, and it's trying to keep my composure being able to do this interview with you because you've inspired me so much by everything that I listen to and everything I try to do with playing drums. And just, again, it's a huge honor to be able to talk to you.
Hey, thank you very much being so much into the band and being a fan. And I'm a fan of music and all the artists I'm listening to myself. So it's very cool to hear that somebody likes what I do, and in the end, what we with our bands do with Thulcandra and Obscura. So seriously, I'm honored. And again, thank you for the review. Thank you for the interview. And when we are passing by Minnesota, you're from, just drop me a message. You're very welcome to be our guest.
Oh, I am highly honored. Thank you so very much for that. Before we wrap things up, is there anything else that you would like to mention that I haven't brought up yet?
Well, we could talk another 3 hours if you want to.
I'm always up for that.
Actually, there's nothing I would think we didn't cover it yet. I just hope we can make it back to the States. If possible, pick up the album, or at least listen to it as a whole, if possible, and then I'm a pretty happy man.
Oh, fantastic, and same here. Thank you again for the new Obscura album, thank you for the last Thulcandra album last year, and thank you in advance for all the music that you'll be bringing to us in the future.
Well, let's see. I hope it doesn't take another 5 years to make a new Obscura album. But more news on that very soon. Believe me, very soon. Cool. So, hey, Joss,